Tonight, we're excited to have a real true freedom fighter with us here tonight. That's it. Randy.
Thank you very much, Shelley. It's wonderful to be in Burlington, looking out over that nice big purple bay called Hamilton Harbor. That's what I see when I look out there. It's a nice big purple lake out there. Listen, I want to thank Michael and his team, all the candidates for being here. Thanks for inviting me here tonight. And of course, thanks for Max for everything that Max does as well. I've always had a lot of fun sharing the stage with Mad Max as what should I say, another rebel in Canadian politics. So we've had lots of, and from time to time, we've also had the opportunity to have some interactions with the police as well. So listen, let's, earlier this week, we all know a bit of a shift happened. Yeah. And, but I'm going to say, I grew up in Ottawa. I don't live there anymore, thank God, for some time. But, Ottawa has more in common with Washington than a lot of people realize. Right? We all have heard that Trump is going to drain the swamp in Washington. But, the first time, a lot of people don't realize that Ottawa was built on a swamp. And some guy named Colonel John By built a canal through that swamp and drained it a couple hundred years ago. Well, Max and I might be some engineers digging a new trench, new canal, and so many others, because that Ottawa was built on a swamp as well. But, I think there's a takeaway from what happened on Tuesday night in the United States. And let's not, we can all be exhilarated. We can all be excited about Trump's win. But let's look at what he had to face. He had the entire corporate media of the United States opposed to him. He had the state's attorney generals, the courts, all against him. And, well, he had his own party against him, many of them. And I think there's an important takeaway. Well, plus he had a few people to take a couple shots at him as well. So, listen, that's a story right there for everybody in this room and everybody across this country. The underdog, if he puts in the effort, if they're determined, they have conviction, they will beat that mountain of opposition that they put in front of them. So I'm going to just share a couple little stories with you tonight. Give you a little bit of an insight into my history in politics, my observations in politics. And you make of them as you will. But I want to first start with a story near the end of my political career. And it was 2018. Doug Ford's Conservatives had just won the general election in Ontario, right? Everybody had been tired of this expensive, woke, brutal Wynne-McGuinty government, right? And a new conservative savior was on the horizon named Doug Ford. Everybody remember that? Right? So, anyway, Doug Ford names his cabinet. The legislature's recalled to do its work. One of the fellas who was named to the cabinet, it's a tongue twister, but I've learned how to say it. Peter Bethenfalvey. Anybody ever hear that name before? Well, Peter was named as Minister of the Treasury Board. So this was a couple months after the legislature started. And Peter, I had high hopes for Peter. I had big hopes for Peter. You know, he was a captain of Ontario industry. He was a Bay Street man. He was a president of Dun & Bradstreet. He was a senior investor and executive with Manulife. He had wheeled billions of dollars in hedge funds and whatnot on Bay Street. And I thought, okay, this guy probably knows what he's doing. We're going to have somebody with their hands on the purse strings who knows about money. So it was a couple months after the election. I'm down in the cafeteria at Queen's Park. I'm in line with Peter. And one of his former colleagues from Bay Street comes running over. Peter, how you doing? And Peter says, oh, it's lovely to see you again, buddy. And his former colleague says, what do you think, Peter? You're the minister of the Treasury Board now. You've got your hands on hundreds of billions of public dollars. You know, what's it like to be a minister of the Crown in Ontario and the minister of the Treasury Board? And Peter says, this is wonderful. He said, it's absolutely terrific. He says, they tell me when to sit down, they tell me when to stand up, and they tell me when to go rah, rah, rah. This is a true story. I was aghast. I thought, what happened to my expectations here? But within a few months, this fellow who was a captain of industry, somebody who I had great expectations for, had become a barking seal, a little puppet and a parrot within a few months, and he thought that life was good as long as somebody told him when to sit down and when to stand up and when to go rah, rah, rah. Astonishing. And here, I still had some expectation that we might be a conservative party. But I want to take you back now. That's near the end of my political career. But go back to the beginning. And back in 2007, a new riding had formed up. Half of it had been Liberal, half of it had been Conservative. New riding was called Lanark, Frontenac, Lennox, and Addington. And not knowing any better, I thought I could be a candidate for the Progressive Conservative Party. And I put my name in. And if people don't realize, before politics, I was a little bit of a rabble-rouser, right? I had a bit of a profile. I had started this little group called the Lanark Landowners back then that had grown to 15,000 people in Ontario. And our slogan was, this land is our land, back off government. And we meant it. So, anyway, so I'd known a bunch of the guys in the Conservative Party for a period of time. And I said, I'm going to run. So I get a call one night from one of the senior members of the Conservative Party. You may have heard of him. He had been a former minister in the Eves and Harris cabinet. He had been a former whip of the party. So his name is Frank Cleese. Right? So Frank calls me up one night after I announced I'm going to be seeking the nomination. He says, Randy, he says, the party really, really likes you. The party likes what you've been doing. He said, but, we really would rather you not run for the nomination. But, and I said, well, Frank, I'm going to. And Frank says, well, we've got a real nice job. One of our corporate partners has got it set up that you will get a nice salary, nice paycheck. It's all inside work. There's no heavy lifting. If you want to just give up the nomination, we'll find a nice, comfortable landing spot for you. And I said, well, Frank, that's very nice of you. However, I'm not doing this because I want a job. Maybe if I just wanted the job, I'd go back and be an electrician. So anyway, Frank wasn't happy. The party wasn't happy. And I won the nomination. But I want to tell everybody here about how that nomination won. That was in February of 2007. The party didn't want me there. Every Saturday, I would go out and have a town hall. I would have a breakfast meeting in all the little towns, Cloyne, Calidar, Smith Falls, Carlton Place. And I'd invite people to come and have breakfast with me every Saturday morning. And then I would do it during the week as well. And I'd get 10, I'd get 20, I'd get 30 people out at these events. And I'd talk to them and listen to them, hear what their concerns were. And I listened. And, well, they bought memberships. They agreed to be part of my campaign team. They agreed that if I won the nomination, they'd put signs up. Just slow, incremental. And I built a team. And now the party really wanted the son of the president of the party. They wanted her son to be the candidate. So there was a little bit of skullduggery. There was a little bit of jiggery-pokery at the ballot boxes, but we knew how to deal with that. So, lo and behold, I win the nomination on the first ballot. And the party was astonished. But I kept doing that. Every Saturday, I'd go out and have breakfast meetings. Every week, and during the week, I'd go out. And my friends and the people that I met would host get-togethers in their homes, in their neighborhoods, and invite their neighbors into their houses to meet me, to have a conversation, to have a discussion, for me to listen, and for me to speak as well. And lo and behold, I think it was October 8th, 2007. I won, much to the chagrin, October 11th, pardon me. I won by 890 votes. 890 votes. It was a bit of a squeaker. But that was the last time there was a squeaker. Every time after that was over 50%. Right? But you had to put the work in, put the effort in. And this was before the days of Twitter and Facebook and blah, 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 blah. Hey? It was just going out and doing things. It wasn't door knocking. It was inviting people to come and talk and have a conversation. So, that's a story for everybody here. You don't look for others to make your way. You're a candidate, you're a team, go out and do things. Okay? And I'll tell you, the team was pretty small originally. But all you need to do is have a couple friends to help you along. And you know what? That was exactly what I did back in 2000 when there was another nascent party wanting to get seats in Ontario. You may have remembered this name. It was called the Reform Alliance. The first Reform Alliance member elected east of Manitoba was my riding, and that's exactly what we did. Right? Invite people into our homes with the candidate to meet and talk. So I think that's an important story. Now, I want to go back to one other little story from politics, and I could obviously go with a few others, but so that I had a bit of a tenuous relationship with the Conservative Party, as you might. There's this group of people around Doug Ford, right? And shortly after the election in June, we had a caucus barbecue at Doug Ford's mother's house, right? He always has things at his mother's house. I don't know if he doesn't have his own house yet or not, but anyway, nice place. We have this barbecue, and Doug's chief of staff pulls me over to the side. He said, "I want to have a little word with you, Hillier." And I said, "Sure." I've known Dean for a while. I wasn't a big fan of him, but anyway, I came to find out he wasn't a big fan of mine either. Anyway, he told me that his number one job was to get me out of caucus, right? And he did, right? And that's just the way things go with the Conservative Party and with most of the established parties. He didn't want me there. I wasn't like the candidate that they wanted, who was going to be obedient and compliant. They didn't like those terms like maverick and redneck and stuff. Anyway, I never hold a grudge, because shortly after I got exposed that Dean French was using the patronage position of Doug Ford to hire his lacrosse students and his nephews and his cousins and his nieces into patronage positions. And somehow that became known to the public, and he got fired as well. So anyway, I just thought there's a little bit of a brief history. But I want to say tonight is about State of the Union. It's about, as we saw earlier this week, about overcoming the obstacles, the mountains that are in front of us. But I want to share two short stories about the state of our union. 34 years ago, I was a journeyman electrician. I was making $25 an hour. I had 4 kids. My 4th child was just born. I just bought a new home in Carleton Place, a nice, modest brick bungalow for $112,000. Right? And if you remember back in 1990, well, wasn't just the price of homes. A journeyman, a tradesman could carry a family, and his wife could stay at home and raise their 4 kids on a tradesman's salary in this province. Pretty astonishing. And just think back, 2 times my annual salary bought me a home, a nice home. Wasn't quite palatial, but it was a nice home. Gas was 59 cents a liter on average in 1990. The average car, if you wanted to buy a new car, I had a car. My family didn't want for anything. We had food on the table. We had roof over our head. We had a new vehicle. The average price of a new vehicle, average, 1990 was $15,500. Today, it's $65,000. That same home, because my son, who was born then, is also a tradesman. But now he's making $30 an hour. He's making $30. Right? That same home is going to be closer to $600,000. The gas is not 59 cents, but $1.50, triple. The debt, Ontario's debt in 1990, total net debt was $35 billion. It's now $429 billion. That's just Ontario's debt. The federal debt has gone from $400 billion to over $2 trillion. Right? You see the path that we're on here, a path of diminishing returns is what's going on in our country. That each of our subsequent generations now will have less and less and less. Unlike what my parents left to me, where there was opportunity, where there was freedom, where there was growth. Now, I think we all have a obligation and a duty to our children and our grandchildren to make sure that we get off this path of diminishing returns. And it's not just economic, though. I want to share one other story that happened in my little hometown of Perth 2 weeks ago. Little town of 5,000 people. Right? A young 15-year-old boy named Reese was brutally murdered. And he was brutally murdered by someone who identifies as a girl. Yes. He identifies as a girl. And for a year, the family had pleaded with the school, the principals, the teachers, the guidance counselors, that because this person who identifies as a girl had been very aggressive for over a year. And they pleaded. And of course, the authorities said, there's nothing we can do about this. You know, nothing, you know, and just remember, you know, every year, we take a month every year to have a Pride Month. We have our schools having Drake Time story hours. We have our legions and our libraries doing the same. And the teacher said, there's nothing we can do. And of course, there's some truth to that. Because in December of 2021, each and every one of our 338 members of the House of Commons unanimously supported Bill C-4. C-4 said, we cannot impede, obstruct, or delay, or prevent this mental illness that we're encouraging with our children, but we must affirm this mental illness. And, you know, we cannot, as a society, affirm, embrace, and promote mental illness without expecting dangerous consequences. So, the uniparty, and remember, I said that 338. There was not a single member of the House of Commons who didn't support and agree with affirming mental illness in our society. I believe all children are at risk. And we have to do something about it. It's our economic path that we have to change, but it's also our social and cultural path that we have to change as well. But here's the thing. Many, many great things are underway in this province and in this country. Many things that we might not see. But there is a rebirth or a reform of freedom and economic reality underway. I was down in Windsor the other day and came across this church that had started out in a little utility trailer. And during COVID, they were one of those few, like Max and I, who maybe didn't abide by all the rules during COVID. And that small little church now has a full kindergarten to grade 12 school on it, with workshops, with woodworking and vocational shops. And that small little utility trailer church now has a chapel of 800 people. Everywhere I go, there is all kinds of unseen reforms underway. I was up in Pembroke every Monday night in a Pembroke pub. About 125, 150 people get together every Monday night. Freedom Pembroke happens every Monday night. And I go around, and this is happening. There's co-op schools, there's churches, there's freedom groups, there's all kinds of people are making a difference. Right? We have to show that there's a political home for all these people as well. But now here I want to come to the end. Because there are, don't be pessimistic. That's what Trump has shown us. If we want to put in the effort, if we want to put in the work, if we want to persevere, then the underdog will win. Hey? We're a bit of the underdog right now. But I think we have the conviction, the fight, the determination to get over that mountain, just as Trump has done in the United States. So I'm going to end this off. So I started off the story with Peter Bethenfalvey. Now, he was so good at sitting down, standing up, going rah, 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 that he got a promotion. He is now the Minister of Finance. Doug Ford just named him Minister of Finance. And what is Peter's first undertaking that he's announced? He has given us all a great gift. All a great gift. He wants to buy the next provincial election by sending you each and every one of us in Ontario $200. Now, listen, don't worry, I know we only have a $10 billion deficit this year. And this is only going to be another $3 billion. So it's not a big deal. But he's given us a gift. He's given everyone in Ontario an opportunity to invest in their children's future. Take that $200, invest it in the PBC, and you'll get a tax credit for $150. It's a great thing about politics. You can always turn the table on the other dogs if you want to work at it. Take his money. Take his money and invest it in your children's future by investing in the PPC today. Thank you very much. It's been a pleasure being here. And let's fight. Let's fight. And, you know, it was a pleasure being in Ottawa back in February of 2022. Because there was a fella there who honked his horn loud like everybody else. And that's Maxime Bernier. And we'll continue to honk the horn and have freedom in our country. Thank you.